As a young woman of 21, you had a dream which made it clear to you that you could communicate with deceased. Would you tell me what you experienced? Yes. Well, I was 21 years old at the time, and my best friend was also 21. Sadly, she had gotten cancer. She was suffering from leukemia. She underwent chemotherapy, but it wasn't going very well at all. And at some point, after 6 months, she did feel a bit better. At that time, she was from time to time in the hospital, then back at home, and thereafter, in one of these phases, when she was discharged from the hospital because she seemed to be feeling much better, I had been invited to come to Paris by some friends who were staying there. And I asked her, "Is it okay with you if I'm not here this weekend, as I'll be visiting friends in Paris?" I had asked her this during my visit to her home, and she said, "Oh yes, by all means, it's fine with me. I'll see you on Monday." And so I went to Paris that weekend, and there, in the very first night, I had this dream. I was sleeping on my back, and I woke up suddenly early in the morning, and I had my hands folded, just like this. We were all staying in a one-room apartment, and in the daytime, the room was a living room, and in the evening, it was filled with mattresses. And so when I woke up from sleep, I saw one of my colleagues to my left, and one in the corner of the room. I saw one of my friends to my left, and in one corner of the room, I suddenly saw my friend appearing. And then I got up. She looked so healthy, young, and, well, she was young. She was only 21. But through the chemotherapy, she had lost her hair. Furthermore, she had become quite emaciated. But now she was radiant. She was fit. I was surprised and happy to see her, and I didn't even ask myself whether it was normal or not that she be there. It was just only that she was simply there, and I was happy to see her. I then went up to her, and she said she had come to say goodbye, that she wished me well, and we embraced each other. As for me, I was filled with joy, because I saw that she was doing well, and also that she was still fine when she left. So I felt calmed down, and I turned and I saw my neighboring friends still sleeping on the mattresses as before, and I had the impression that they hadn't noticed anything, strangely enough. Then suddenly, she was standing in the middle, before a wall in this room. The wall then seemed to dissolve behind her, whereupon a light came up, and this light was like a strong sun. Then the wall was somehow just gone, and she went into the light. Through the wall, so to speak, she became smaller and smaller, finally vanishing into the vastness. Whereafter, all at once, the wall was there again. The light was gone, and the wall was closed, as it was before. And I thought, great, I've seen her, she's fine. And this was quite naive, somehow. Then I turned around, and my friends were still there, so I lay down and fell asleep again. And in the same moment I fell asleep, I woke up again in this position. And when I saw my friends still lying there, I thought, oh dear, what a strange dream indeed. But everything was so real. In the beginning, in the first few minutes, I was still happy, because I still had the feeling that she was fine, that she looked so good, and that we had seen each other, and then just said goodbye. But thereafter, as the hours went by on that day, well, that was back in 1997, there were no cell phones or things like that, and I gradually got worried. So I tried to reach her in Switzerland, but no one answered the phone at her home. At some point in the evening, I reached my mother, and she told me that my dear friend had died. Later on, I found that when I had awakened at 5 in the morning and couldn't sleep anymore, that this was exactly the time she died, 5 o'clock in the morning. And initially, for me, this was like some kind of proof that, well, at that time, it was like proof for me. but there is also supposed to be something like telepathy. And therefore, I assumed that such a thing only can happen at the moment someone dies, as in this case with my friend. And so I still had no proof yet for any life thereafter. She just said goodbye to me at the moment she died, and then she was gone. That's all. And that's because I was still in deep grief, because I didn't know whether I was simply dreaming about her at the very moment she died. Maybe she was thinking about me. But thereafter, she disappeared, and this left me very burdened. You met your deceased friend again in a particular dream. Yes, this was really very nice, because I don't know how much time had passed by then, but it was quite a while later, and I was still in mourning, and so I then had this dream where I suddenly found myself on something like an island of sand. The sky was black, but with stars, but the sand was lit as if a sun was shining, whereas the sky was black. And there was also a sea there, but beyond that, nothing more than just this landscape consisting of sand and a sea, and beyond that, I felt as if you were in outer space. Suddenly, there were a lot of people there. It was very hectic. People were running around, and I didn't know what was going on. So I asked someone, "What's going on here?" And I was told, well, that's a kind of intermediate world where people sometimes come here in their sleep or when they have died. And when someone has died, they sometimes may be allowed to come back to this place of encounter, where the deceased can meet with those who are still alive. Well, I was really happy. And then Sarah appeared. The whole thing was very special, because she told me she couldn't be there all the time, but that she was able to come to this place only now, while I was sleeping, and she asked me how I was doing. So I told her that because she was my best friend, I was suffering a lot, and that the mourning process would still be troublesome for me. She then was consoling me, and this was rather strange, because I was very sad, because I missed her, and because it was the person who had caused this grief due to her death who was consoling me. And this was somehow rather strange, really strange, but also very healing. Well, then the dream came to an end, and when I woke up, I had the feeling, again initially, that it was nice to have met her. But as the time passed, my rational mind prevailed and told me, but it was just a dream, and maybe it was just a longing of mine to meet her, or maybe I made it up, because up to that point in time, I did not have any proof at all that this corresponds to any reality. Anyway, it all felt very extraordinary, and it came out of nowhere. So it's not that I thought about her beforehand, and as a result, I was dreaming of her, but rather this dream came completely without any action on my part. Nina, you also had an exceptional dream experience with your father. That's right. This happened 15 years ago. And the thing with my father was that I had never lived with him. The relationship was a bit complicated. And due to my studies as a biologist, that's probably the rational part of me, because biology includes chemistry, physics, and mathematics. So we are very down to earth. Well, my father and I had a complicated relationship, and during my studies, I received a letter from him full of criticism, stating that I would never be able to achieve what he had achieved, and thereafter I felt I wasn't good enough. Thereafter our relationship broke up. I stopped contacting him, he stopped contacting me, and it went on like this for 5 years. Then I finished my studies, I also got married, but I didn't invite him to the wedding because we hadn't been in touch. But suddenly he contacted me by phone, and we rarely started to get in touch again, sometimes by means of a postcard, sometimes by phone. And this was around the time when I was looking for a job. I indeed had a very good prospective position. So I thought, if I get this job, he'll be proud of me, and he'll finally realize that I'm worth something. Well, 3 appointments were scheduled for the interview. The first interview went very well, and afterwards we spoke on the phone, but I didn't tell him anything about it, because I knew that he would say, "But you haven't got the job yet. There's still a lot that can happen." So he would not have recognized this. Until I had secured the job, I could not tell him, "Well, now I've got this job," so I didn't say anything. And suddenly, shortly before the second personal interview, I received a phone call informing me that he had died. He committed suicide, whereupon I was in crisis. But I still went to the second interview and also to the third, and I got the job. I worked there for a month, but then I quit this job. I realized that I was only doing it to get my father's approval. But now he was gone. So somehow it no longer made any sense. I felt very guilt-ridden because he had committed suicide. It was November. There were lots of storms. There were hurricanes at that time, and as I said, very stormy, and I found it all very unsettling. Christmas came, but I didn't feel like celebrating. I just had this feeling of guilt. There were still unanswered questions, and we had not reconciled. I hadn't seen him for the past 5 years, so I didn't know exactly what he looked like, and it all weighed heavily on me. Even after a few months had passed, there was still this constant unrest all around. It was as if he was still there, and of course, he didn't die relaxed. Of course not. Then I had this strange dream where I went to his apartment. He was living in a penthouse. The last time I was there, in earthly life, there was a carpet there, and back on the roof of this penthouse, which was made of wood and light wood, in my dream, then I arrived at his door. I opened the door, but found the apartment empty. There was a pair of shoes right at the entrance. There was a closet, and when I opened it, I saw that everything was empty inside. There was only a blue shirt hanging on a hanger. I then continued on and came into a larger area of this penthouse, realizing that it was somehow different than before. The floor was somehow now white and very bright, and the ceiling was also very bright, and the wood looked as if it had been painted. Otherwise, the rest of the area there was practically empty. I turned around and saw a table standing in one place, and next to this table there was my father. And at that moment, all the dams broke, because I had a lot of things that had been piling up over the past few months. What I still would have liked to say to him was, well, when we are confronted with certain things in life, we do what we think is best at that point in time. Only later, you may think of a better way. You might have done something. Well, I could have put my pride aside and maybe taken the first step toward him. But now it was too late, so everything was piling up inside me. And when seeing him, I just blurted out, "I'm so sorry." He looked younger than before, and he looked really very good, and he radiated. So he took both of my hands like this, and he said, "It's all okay. Everything is fine. I wish you well." And it's exactly this that he never used to do. Because he belonged to another generation, so he never gave me a hug or showed me any emotions in any other way. And now he took my hands, saying, "It's all good. I wish you all the best." And he meant it from the heart. That's why, for me, it was an unfamiliar feeling at first. So I just repeated, "I'm so sorry." But he was completely relaxed. He was in no way, well, he was at peace with himself, you see? And I was allowed to tell him what was bothering me the most. And thereupon, this light unfolded in him, and he vanished in this light. Thereafter, he was gone. At this point, I woke up, and when I was awake, I first of all was quite relieved. Then the sadness, because of all the emotions, were welling up inside me. But again, it went through my head, well, this was just another dream. Where from it came, I have no idea, because I was longing for it so much. Or whether I was dreaming this because I wanted to experience it that way, or was it merely a fantasy, or was it really true after all? Then my rational mind came up again and told me that this was just wishful thinking. And the initial relief turned into sadness again. So the problem was still not solved. So I didn't want to say goodbye to him yet. He died in November, and it was dragging on that way until the following January. When I finally went to his apartment, here in this earthly life, in order to collect a few more things, even though the apartment was practically empty. When I got there, I opened the door and immediately saw this closet, as well as the flooring that was different now. It was laminate flooring. There was no more carpet. The wood on the ceiling was painted white, just like in my dream. And I thought, oh dear, this looks exactly like in the dream I had after he died. Then I opened the closet and saw that it was empty, and that there was only this blue shirt left hanging, which I then took with me. So I went further into the living room, which was also just like in my dream. It had been cleared out, and there was only this table there. I had no way of knowing beforehand that the apartment looked like that, because I hadn't been there for the last 5 years. I didn't know that the wood on top was painted white, nor did I know that there was laminate flooring. Even the table was still there. We were standing in front of this table back then in my dream, saying goodbye. And the fact that I was in this apartment in January was a proof for me. I had this dream after his death, not at the moment of his death, but a while later. And this was a proof for me, and I know I was indeed there before, because I saw this apartment in my dream exactly as it was in reality. Even the blue shirt was the only piece of clothing hanging in the closet. And since I also saw this same apartment when I was there in spirit, I concluded that my father must have been there too, also as a spirit being. And this, then, also means that we indeed reconciled in reality. What impact did all your exceptional dream experiences have on your worldview? The dream I had about my father who died 15 years ago, well, actually now it's almost 16 years, this dream was proof to me that there is still something after. I used to think that you might dream about someone at the moment they died, but with him, I had the feeling that he was still somehow present in the air around me, still being restless, until I had reconciled with him. And as for me, I was then able to let him go. The other members of his family were burdened, as they didn't have the opportunity or chance to let go of it. They could not deal with it by means of a dream, for example. He had not spoken that evening, and the next day he was dead. And if you have to live with that all your life, this is hard. Whereas for me, this issue has been solved through my dream of him, in the sense that I felt the need to apologize and reconcile with him and say goodbye to him in an edifying way. And I was given this opportunity, and this was my farewell with him. Because when afterwards I was in this apartment in reality, then able to understand that this meeting with my father had actually taken place, this was a relief that was crucial for me. I then changed my life completely. I moved house, and strangely enough, even though he died by suicide, I started to enjoy my life. So I wanted to live, knowing that everything could be over tomorrow, and that you don't know when the last day will come. And that's how I wanted to live. So as long as I'm here, I want to live. I also have this inner certainty, now that when I die one day, I will see him again. And because he's not gone in full, but only gone for the moment, that's how I see it. Also, when it comes to my pets or others, like relatives who die, it's only a temporary farewell. This may be difficult because you still have to go on living, maybe for a longer period of time. But we will for sure see each other again. And this is a certainty that I have gained from my experiences. Nina, I thank you very much for this interview. It was a great pleasure.